What's up? We're just gonna have a chit chat. We're gonna have a little chat. I'm pulling up my coffee here. As you can see, I don't have as nice of a home setting. I need Revel 88 coffee, and that's what I need, right?
Yes, you do.
Let me turn on my light.
This is freshly made with my AeroPress. Oh, I can turn on my light. It'll be too bright.
Those of you who are like listening, you're like, what are you guys talking about? So we're talking about light for video. So you can see, I'm going to pour myself the French press. I have this funky little cup here. It's like a Korean. It's like a Korean Teletubby. See that? I don't know what it is.
Teletubbies.
I don't even know where we got this.
Yesterday evening, I got the craving for Korean barbecued ribs, and I couldn't find any.
Yeah, no kidding, because you live in Washington.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you can't really find any anywhere right now because all the restaurants are closed.
Well, many of our restaurants are available for takeout, which I think is hilarious because that's supposed to protect us. And I'm like, I have no idea what's happening in that kitchen. Who's been touching my food?
Yes. I have ordered Uber Eats innumerable times, and I swear it looks like these people are showing up in hazmat suits to drop off my food, and it is hilarious. And I appreciate that. But now I'm like, do I Lysol my bag of food? Like, God only knows, right?
Right. And we all watched The Walking Dead, and we thought that was exciting and fun. And now that we're living it, it's not so much fun, is it?
No, it's not. It's definitely not fun. Strangely enough, like my life hasn't changed that much in the day to day, to be honest.
Mine neither.
I'm like, people are like, how you doing? I'm like, I was built for quarantine.
Yeah. I'm like, I've been doing this for 10 years. I don't know what you guys are having trouble with, but let me know. I'll help you.
Well, yeah. And it's sort of like, the power of introverts, right? So I feel like I get all my energy when I'm alone, when I have that kind of time alone. And you let me charge up for 6 straight weeks without interruption. Like, I'm going to come out of the gate swinging. Like, it's not going to be pretty for the world in a good way, though. So like, yeah. I feel like I'm doing some of my best work.
Agreed. I'm doing the same. And it's given me time to contemplate lots more time for critical thinking about my business and my positioning and what I want to accomplish and why I want to do it and what I want things to, I feel like I've been given a big reset button.
Yes.
And now I've got, I kind of hate the way this sounds, but it's given me cover to decide what I want things to look like coming out the other side of this.
I read this thing. God must be in a good mood because he is clearing all of the backlog of people's prayers. For example, number 1, kids. I wish we had no school and we could play all day. Done. Women. I want the undivided attention of my husband. Done.
How's that working out for you?
Yeah. Husbands. I'm sick of traffic. I wish I could just work from home. Done. I'm going to go down this list. This is hilarious. Working moms. I wish I could spend more quality time with my kids and read. Done. Students. I wish I had no exams. Boom. Done. Old parents. I wish our kids would spend more time with us rather than being busy every day. Done. I'm seeing my parents all the time. Employees. I'm slogging through so much work. I need a break. Done. Employers. I have no life of my own. I wish I could relax. Boom. Done. The earth. I can't breathe. I just wish I could get a break from all this pollution. Done. I guess you got to be careful what you wish for.
It's kind of makes me feel like we're living out that scene from Bruce Almighty where Bruce was given the power. He just said yes to everybody's prayers and it created a big mess.
Yes. He just starts hitting yes on the button.
Right.
Like it's like, oh man. I it does feel good in a sense. And I know that we're very, very fortunate because, we are because, we have these businesses that are online. And actually business has gotten better for me in that I guess it's good to be in the business of helping people say something when they don't know what to say. So that's sort of what's been going on. Um, but what do you want to do now? Like, what do you like? What is like that reset look like?
I want to focus on helping people say what they want to say when they don't know what to say. It's,
Nice.
it's what I've been doing. And I feel like, okay, so I have to be careful here. We have a mutual friend who has a business that was very simple. One might say it was founded upon simplicity. And I've watched it grow steadily more complex through line extension. Those of you who know your Rees and Trout will know what I'm talking about.
Yep.
And I went and visited our mutual friend's website and I'm like, this is so confusing. What are you doing? And I just realized, oh, I've been there. That's behind me on the path. And now I've been thinking about this already, but this big reset that we just got has allowed me to just very quickly decide, all this stuff that I've been doing that's tangentially related to my main focus, which is writing and writing messages with single pointed clarity. That's what I want to focus on, and teaching people how to do that. These are the things I'm good at. So that's what I'm doing. I've dropped all my line extension. I've taken all those other projects, planned events. I mean, all the events that I wished. I was looking at my calendar a couple of months ago thinking, if I had a magic wand, if I just pray a prayer, I would say, I wish I could cancel all these events. God said, done. So there, it's my fault. You're welcome.
It's my fault too. I mean, I was supposed to be we saw each other in San Diego and I was supposed to be on the road, believe it or not, until April 8th. From the time we saw each other, 6.5 straight weeks. And so 3.5 weeks of trips got canceled. And I'm like, what was I thinking?
Yeah.
Like, who lives in a hotel bouncing around for 6.5 weeks? This is not, I would have killed myself or taken years off of my life running that hard. And then when we saw each other, we were like hanging out. And I was like, man, all I want to do is like sit on the beach. And you're like, all I want to do is sit on the beach and read books. I'm like, why don't we do that?
Yes. I clearly remember that conversation. I was going to bring that up.
Yeah.
So what about you? What do you want to just sit on the beach and read books?
Yeah, I do. I want to, so the real big struggle for me is I don't set up systems well.
Mm-hmm.
I'm good at shooting. I can shoot from the hip. I can go make money, which also means that anything that doesn't have the immediate gratification or payoff, the dopamine hit, I don't want to do.
Yep.
Like writing a book or setting up a funnel or having a nurture sequence or putting up an opt-in that leads somewhere that just serves my audience. But, it's the system, and that's what I've been doing. And I'm like, why didn't I do this 5 years ago?
Because you were so busy doing all those other things. The story you maybe told yourself, I'm speaking to myself now. The story I was telling myself was I'm too busy to do that right now.
Yep.
And because I created such chaos in my own life, I also created chaos in the life of my team. So even my team, who supposedly was there to do all that stuff for me, couldn't do it because I kept coming in saying, hey, here's some chaos for today. I lit the dynamite, threw it in the door, closed the door, and left.
Today's agenda is chaos. I got some for you guys. Man, dude, I was like, I was scrolling through my Evernote for some reason. I was looking for something. Oh, I remember what it was. I decided to teach about how I run mastermind groups to one of my paid communities. So I put in mastermind in the search, and it brought up our old mastermind. Okay, and you know, I was like a bad student in school, but I was like the prototypical Asian student in the mastermind because I showed up every call. I had my like win, my tip, everything like, you know, I didn't show up half-assed like, you know, half the group does. Like they just wing it, right?
Yep.
So in my update, and I found a post from 2016. And my win that week that I reported to our group was, I'm so excited. I have 100 people who signed up for tonight's webinar. And I'm like, that is awesome. Like, I don't remember, and I'm not saying that to sound, you know, I mean, you know this, like, I'm not like, oh, that's so little now. Cause no, I'm grateful for anyone who shows up on a webinar, to be honest. But I think I had said 100 people signed up for the webinar, and you know I just hit like 1,500 email subscribers on my list, and I was like so ecstatic, you know. And I look back on that, and I'm like, oh wow, I I I want to share this with my folks because they think I'm like some big name guru or something. I don't think I am. And then on the flip side of it, I was like, I'm still doing that now. And I'm glad I'm consistent at doing the things that work, but I'm also like really ticked that it's been 5 years or 4 or 5 years. I still don't have these other systems set up. So it helped me get my tail in gear, man. And I remember after that feeling, I remember another thing you said. You were like, I just feel like I have only just left my entrepreneurial infancy stage.
Yep.
I'm like, oh, okay, that's what that feels like. I think I'm starting to crawl. Maybe I'm starting to walk.
Yep. It's that same realization that, I mean, I'm still in many ways doing the same thing. I have some systems in place, but they haven't been strong. They're getting very strong now during this time because the big distraction for me, while I don't have all the quote free time that people keep talking about, I'm like, where? I don't understand what free time do you have now? And then my wife reminded me, well, they had jobs. The people who are saying that had jobs. You don't have a job except the one you created for yourself. Like, oh, that's true. But now, the big distraction that's been eliminated is the travel. Like you, I had so much travel scheduled, and you know, I'm not complaining. It was fun. It was. I still want to go do it because it's fun packing. It's fun anticipating, getting on the airplane, getting to the new destination, leaving your luggage at the bell desk and going and doing something fun, finding good places to go eat, finding out where the parties are, finding out whether Mike is here or not, and then coming home. And it's like people don't realize that a 3-day event trip, if I'm not putting the event on, is really like 5 or 6 days. It's a week, effectively. If you're putting the event on, just double that number.
Yep.
And so you schedule 3 or 4 of those a month and you have no time to do anything else.
You get no work done either.
Yeah.
This idea that you're going to get right while you're on the plane is a complete pipe dream.
That never happens. And when I'm traveling like that, I'm in a constant state of dopamine overflow where I'm like so excited about all the new ideas, the new connections, the new things that are going to happen. And I'm going to make this happen and that happen. And then I forget to factor in, when am I going to do that? Because there's the next trip and the next one and the next one. So I don't have any of that now. So we have plenty of time to work on our systems and deciding what systems we need to have and what things we're going to work on, what things we're not.
I was talking to Jeff the other day, Goins, and we were like talking about how people evolve and they grow, and that's what keeps them interesting. And you came up in the conversation, right? Because you're friends with both of us. We're all good friends.
And I
And
just
I'm
want,
just
as a side comment, I just want to ask you: is this just me, or is Jeff becoming more and more Yoda?
he is. It's so fun to see.
Yes.
It's so fun to see. I am all for people becoming more and more who they are. Like when I went through, my adult life, the two biggest events, if you will, or experiences that transformed me were my work and my marriage. And that those were both experiences that completely transformed me. And I can't even comprehend that I was who I was before those experiences. Like you mentioned, oh, those people have jobs. I can't even, I hardly remember what that was like. I have to fight now to remember what it was like to be on the flip side of that. And I don't say that in a condescending way. I'm just saying, like, when you redefine your career and what you do every day, it's hard to meet people who are fulfilled in life and don't like what they do for a living, because work is such a big part of life.
Yeah.
And then, and you walked with me through both of those experiences, actually. That's so crazy, right? And then my marriage falls apart. And I read this book, and I think this is a principle that can be applied to so many things. But I was going through that, and ultimately it was my decision to leave the marriage. And this book said divorce isn't about the other person. I thought it was. I thought, this is crazy. She's nuts. She did all this and that. But then I realized it was true what this book said. Divorce isn't about the other person. It's about you no longer agreeing to be who you were in that relationship.
Mm.
And that's what a career change is about. And that's what I think what we're talking about right now. Like, I'm no longer going to be the Ray who is hopping on 18 trips a quarter and have 18 different products. And I don't like that anymore. I'm not going to do that anymore.
Yep.
I'm divorcing that dude.
Yes.
I'm breaking up with that guy. Has that been what your journey has been like as a solo business owner, as an entrepreneur? Because I've known you for years now. My whole professional career in what I do, I've known you, and you're unpredictable. Like, dude,
well, that's intriguing. Before I prejudice any of your other comments, expand on that.
When I first met you, you were this like Bible toting guy, wearing blazers all the time, and then you started stepping out of the marketing copywriting space, and you were doing like Permission to Prosper. And I know you've got, big plans for that still, but that was really cool to see, because I'm like, well, he's really stepping into this thought leader space. And I remember your business and your company growing like right before my very eyes. I remember those first launches that you did. I remember the first 7-figure launches that you did. I was part of them. And then I saw your team grow and grow and grow and grow. I think I remember like one time I had a conversation with you, and I was like, and you were like, I'm really stressed out, dude. And I'm like, what do people on your team do? And we just had this quick conversation. You just listed a few people some who I knew and some who I didn't. You just listed like what you paid them. And then I was like, well, what does that person do for that much money? And you're like, I don't know. I'm like, what would you tell me if I were in this situation? And I think you swore at me or something. You're like,
yeah, I'm pretty sure I did. I don't know that I was swearing at you. I think it was just
no, you were
a
not.
General expulsion of profanity.
You're like, F, Mike Kim. All right. And then you call me a week later, like just like, okay, I made some changes. I was like, oh crud. But and then you start getting tattoos everywhere, and then you're like, I'm just gonna read Ayn Rand, and I'm gonna just talk about that for a year. And what I love is that you've been increasingly and quite figuratively wearing this transformation on your arm or sleeve. And that's actually what is so interesting. I think I have more thoughts on that, but that's what I mean by that. That's what I mean by that.
Cool. I'm okay with that. What was the question? I just got stuck when you said I'm unpredictable.
Oh, I remember the question. It was, whenever you've gone through these changes, were they intentional? Was it just you just kind of fumbling around in the dark, looking for the next step?
At first it was that, and then it's become more and more intentional. And like now I view everything, and don't get me wrong, by the tone, I realize my tone has shifted. So everybody's believing now that, oh, Ray's got it all figured out. He's about to lay it on us. Mm-hmm. No, I don't have it all figured out. The one thing I've learned is the more I know about stuff, the less I realize how little I know. And people think that's like a false humility, nice thing to say. No, for those of you who are seeking to reach a point of wisdom in your life, this is the scary truth. The deeper you go, the more you realize how deep it potentially can get and how shallow you really are at that point in time. Mm. If that makes sense to you, then receive it. If it doesn't, then just disregard it as the ramblings of a slightly crazy person. I'm intentional about, I know I've only got a limited time on the planet, and I'm not upset about that. The sense of urgency I have about how far can I push this envelope of who I am, what I know, what experiences I've had, what contributions I can make or decide not to make. And so it now feels more like I'm just experimenting in public. And I've become more and more public about what that means to me. And like, I've got this book coming out, Permission to Prosper. And a lot of people are going to read it and feel like, oh, Ray went back to being super Christian. Yeah, I feel like I'm more deeply committed to Christ and less enamored with Jesus as he's presented by most churches. In fact, I think this is the first time I've publicly talked about this, but I'm okay with it. I think it's important to remember Christ is not Jesus's last name. Jesus is a person in history, and Christ is a title for something ineffable, something unspeakable. The Jewish people won't speak the name of God because they have a premise that if you can speak it, it's not God. You've made it into an idol. Something to just think about.
I've heard that a million times. Friends. Yeah, I've heard that a million times, and now I'm just really actually thinking about that.
So to me, I love Jesus. And I think we have some hints about who he is. And then there's Christ. And I don't think we have any concept. Paul said we have the mind of Christ. So that's an exploration that I'm going through. I feel like I'm growing. And so when I looked at the manuscript for Permission to Prosper, I felt like I can still publish this in good conscience. Some people are going to misread it. That's not my problem.
I like that. And we've had conversations about that in private, but not in public. Well, I feel like we're just having a conversation, but
I realize that this is probably going to be published. So, but I'm not worried. Yeah. I'm not measuring my words, which I may regret. I probably won't. I made a decision some time ago to not regret anything.
I like that. Yeah.
Because it does me no good. It's of no service to me to regret anything. I can look back and look at a mistake or something that happened that I had a decision-making hand in that I did not like the outcome of that. And I can say, oh, I won't do that again if I remember.
That's a good caveat.
Sometimes you just got to put your hand on the stove.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. You learn on the field of play. You know, anything that you learned is on the field of play. I think we rehearse on the practice field too much, and we stay there, and nobody actually, does like. It's rare that you find people that continually throw themselves off the cliff.
Yep.
And then decide, I'm going to figure this out on the way down. That's where I want to live. It doesn't mean I don't want security or peace or calm, but I don't want to just sit and be safe. I'm willing to challenge ideas. And I think for me, faith, dude, it was so crazy. I actually, here's another thing. I found the video that I first sent you like in 2013. And I've told you about this video. I know you remember it, but for those who are tuning in 2013, Ray sent out an email. One of the best subject lines ever. Steal it. May I promote you? You remember that one?
It still works as a subject line.
It does. You had some crazy hoops to jump through. It's like, post a video about how one of my products helped you. Tag me on your Facebook page. Put it on your Facebook page. Put it on YouTube. Tag my handle on YouTube. Tag it on. Yeah.
I was the king of complexity.
Yes, it was, but it was smart because you were making sure you got mentions. And I found this video, and I don't recognize who that guy was. I shot this video. It was awful. I had it on my laptop. You basically saw from the bottom of my right jaw.
I do remember that. I haven't seen this video in a long time, but I remember it was not a very flattering angle.
No, it was like up my jaw, my nose, in my corporate office. I was working late alone in the office. So I went into the conference room, which was a nice setting, but I clearly botched it because I screwed up the angle. And I was like super religious languagey in it. And I sent it to you, and I was just like, he may never see this. This is so dumb. And then I turned out to be, I guess, the only person that sent in a video.
Yeah, because I made it so hard that nobody did it except you.
And then we met a little while later in Dallas at Michael Hyatt's conference. And thus, here we are. It started with a video. I just kept throwing myself off the cliff. I've thought about like re-releasing that video. I'm just terrified of it because I'm just like, oh my God. But I think it would really encourage a lot of people. But to my point, I don't recognize that guy. And since that time, I've gone on these, those two huge transitions, in work and personal life. And I don't really know yet what I think about those things that really define my life, especially God or religion, all those things. And of course, I went into a stage of life, during and post divorce where I lived like a college frat kid. It was crazy. I was insane. And I think I'm starting to slow down because of this quarantine. So you should know this. I think you'd be happy to hear this. My drinking has probably decreased by 90%. I mean, there's nowhere it could go but down, right? Because you know me. Like I was doing, like people are like, how much you drinking? Like 8 drinks. Oh, like one a day? No, 8 drinks a night.
Yeah.
And the quarantine happened. I stopped going out, obviously. Stopped drinking because I don't drink alone at home, apparently. So when I'm actually home, I don't drink. I started working out. Yeah, 6 days a week. I can see my abs. Like, I'm like, damn. So a change, I guess.
No, not guess. That's a change.
But with God, I'm like, I don't really get this yet. So what was that like for you going through all that?
I think I'm I don't really get it yet either. And I think that's the right place to be. I feel as though when you reach the point where you feel like, oh, I've got this all figured out, let me give you the 10 main points of what you need to know about God. Here's the 5-point way of dealing with him. I mean, once you reach that point, you've really deceived yourself almost completely about reality. Because it's not possible. If God is whatever you think of God as being, if it's this being with a personality, okay, that created everything, it doesn't matter how we try to explain or map out, how can we possibly know? How can we possibly have a concept in our human brains to define and completely explain and have a book called Systematic Theology? Everything you need to know about God, complete with an index.
I read that book.
I did too. It seems, I mean, it makes me laugh too. I'm like, how can we possibly be so arrogant or so ignorant? We're like little children who think we've figured it out. Oh, Santa's got a lot of helpers everywhere. That's how it works.
No child.
No. So I think the pursuit of knowing God, of knowing the spiritual element of our life is worthy, maybe the highest, not maybe, it's the highest pursuit we can pursue. Allow myself to introduce myself. It's important, but I don't have all the answers, and I'm okay with that. That's where I am.
Do you feel like you have any heroes still in your life? And the reason I ask that is because, religion, or even this space that we're in, right? The guru, the thought leader space. We tend to project or put on a pedestal people or things, yes, or ideas or concepts, and you kind of deconstruct a lot of that. The more and more you move on in life, and you just realize, like, I'm not really that starstruck. That dude puts on his pants one leg at a time, like I do.
Well, it just takes getting to know some of those people personally, and you realize, wow, this image that I had of this person was inaccurate.
And maybe that's not their fault either. Maybe it's I just projected it.
Totally. I totally do not think it's their fault. I think it's it is unfair for me to place my expectations upon them and be disappointed because they didn't meet my expectations, which they did not set.
So do you still have any heroes?
In the sense that I think you mean it, only some dead people.
Because you can't get to know them.
Exactly.
That is crazy that you say that. Yeah. Wow.
I mean, I have people I admire greatly. Like I admire Tony Robbins. He used to be a hero of mine. He did nothing to disappoint me, let me down. I didn't find out some deep, dark secret about him. I found out, stand back for the shocker, he's a human being just like me, who's still figuring things out. What I admire about him is he's throwing himself off the cliff every day. I love that.
It's interesting you said, most of these people are dead, that you might think. And very unexpectedly, for me, this year, it's been Kobe Bryant.
Yeah. That's interesting because I'm not even a sports fan.
Yeah.
But I was aware of Kobe and who he was and some of what he was about. But when that happened, I suddenly developed a deep interest in Kobe Bryant. Hearing people tell the stories, it's been fascinating to me. I still can't explain why I suddenly developed this fascination with Kobe, but I did.
I was devastated. Celebrity deaths are a weird thing. And I think when they happen to people that you have, I never viewed him as a hero. Anthony Bourdain, that one hit me hard too.
Yeah.
Because that's what I thought I wanted my life to be. And when he took his own life, I was like, maybe I'm barking up the wrong tree here. But Kobe Bryant's my age. We're the same exact age.
Oh, wow.
And so when he passed, and I didn't follow his basketball career very much. I was not a Lakers fan. I thought he was a selfish player. Um, and a lot of that, because we were the same age, social media and Facebook and Instagram weren't around in the way that they were YouTube the early part of his career. So you didn't really get to know him in that way that you do these current stars. So now I'm finding on YouTube all these, like you said, the stories, the behind the scenes clips, interviews that he's given about this absolutely ferocious mentality that he had.
Yeah.
And, he had the rape case and all that sort of stuff. And I just thought he's like a bad dude. He's that, like, not a good guy. Like, there's nothing about this guy I like.
That's what I thought as well.
And then you hear people talk about how he and his wife moved through that and got through that and how he loves his daughters. And I'm just like, he's a family man. And I'm like, this dude really changed. Like, he really changed. And maybe that's possible for me. And then he's gone.
Yep.
And then I'm like, what the heck was all that for then? Like, this dude has such a drive, such a motivation to be the absolute best at what he did. And like, right now for this season, something happens whenever I hear his name or see a video with him in it or a photo of him. And I'm going back and reliving and rewatching a lot of these old games with him, or highlights or interviews. And I'm kind of drawing strength from that. I'm like, if that guy can push through like that, and it was still worth it to him, even though he lived a short life, like, I'm going to show up every day. And I also realized he was a really mean guy.
Yeah.
He was a mean guy.
He was a human. Yeah. I look at Kanye. There's the dude who's really changed, apparently. I mean, we won't know the whole story until it's told. Yeah. That's part of the whole mystique of celebrities, though, really, because now we get to watch them grow old. Like, they don't get the luxury of just fading into the shadows because of social media, and there's so much drive and demand. And then some of them just can't stop being public. Like William Shatner. He just can't stop being in front of the camera. And so we get to watch him become an old man. And I realized he was a hero of mine at one point. And I realized eventually he's getting old just like my dad. And he's like saying some of the same weird things my dad says. It's happening to us all. This has all happened before. It will all happen again.
It will. And it's kind of humbling. It's kind of sobering.
Question.
Father Time, yeah.
Go ahead. You're on.
I was just saying Father Time always wins.
That's true. So here's my question. To be, I say we, I'll just make it me. I have, for a long time, a huge portion of my life, idolized people who were the best of the best. Like, came into a field like Kobe or like Tony Robbins. Tony Robbins redefined the whole motivational speaker. I mean, he coined the term life coach. He's the guy who did that and became a peak performance coach. And he's become the biggest of that. He redefined the category. He became the category. He still dominates the category. Do you think that to be that kind of achiever, you have to have an unhealthy obsession?
Yeah, I do. I
do too. I think it used to be that was the target for me, was to be like that in some field. And then I feel like I had the revelation one day that, to do that, you have to have a certain particular kind of mental illness to get there.
You know why I know that? It was all those years of working in church. I saw people with the most delusions of grandeur in that world. And I'm not I'm not broad brushing the whole thing. That please, I worked in church for years. I just hated it. I just could not. I'm like, hey, Dave, chill the heck out, man. We have 800 people in a church outside of Hartford, Connecticut. There's 2 million people that live in that city. We're not transforming the city. Stop it. Like that's, I think, what
but
really.
I'm the 13th apostle.
No, yeah, exactly. And I think that really colored the way I approach marketing. I realized that's why when I found myself in this space, I had no tolerance for this kind of stuff. Like, well, we have a we have a community of 20,000 people, and that's wonderful. It means nothing in the grand scale of things. So if you can serve those people, whether they're 20,000 or 20, show up the same way.
Yeah.
But if you're if you're always pushing, I do think that there is an unhealthy obsession. I look at Kobe and I chew the meat and I spit out the bones, right? That's what I do. And in some industries, you can do that. Like, a guy can't devote that much time to working out and playing basketball if he doesn't have a helicopter to go to practice through LA traffic.
Right.
And that particular industry affords him the lifestyle to do that. But he had the same 24 hours in the day that I do. I just can't scale certain things because of the industry that I'm in, or because of the fanfare, whatever it is. But to your point, I actually, strangely enough, never wanted to be the best in anything. And I think it's because I never wanted to lose my sense of self-identity. Even when I was working in church, where so much of that world is wrapped up in what you do and who you are by a title, I didn't want to be called by a title, even though people insisted it. I held on to those things very loosely. And I think that's also what allows me to be open-handed and generous to people even now. With connections and whatever and opportunities. I just never wanted to get caught up in that stuff. And maybe that comes back to I just want to live a simple life, live on the beach, read books. But I never wanted to be the best in the world at something. I want to be good at it to the best of my ability.
I did want to be the best. I gave that up at some point along the way. It was not a defining moment. It's just a growing realization that in my opinion, in my humble but accurate opinion, you have to have a near pathological obsession to reach the pinnacle of any big career, to be known as the best in the world at that. And I realized I don't want that. I do still have a drive to do something meaningful and important, although I find myself continuously redefining what that means. I mean, for the longest time, I actually thought what I was doing, writing copy and helping people with marketing stuff, was silly. I thought, this is ridiculous. There are people who build bridges. That's important work. There are people who create electronic navigation systems for aircraft. That's important work. There are medical professionals. There are teachers, for crying out loud. This was my mindset for so long. I suffered from a lot of insecurity about advertising and marketing. That seems superfluous. I can never say that word. Superfluous. Silly. I don't feel that way anymore. I feel like I've seen enough of the impact that the work I've done has had with people and allowed them to have their own success, and it's been meaningfully impactful in their lives. And so I love that. So I guess that's what I'm after. I'm after meaning. I want to have time to read books because I love reading books. I want to write books. I've heard that saying, I don't love to write books. I love to have written them. I actually do love the writing process when I give myself enough time to actually do it. So that's been one of the things that not doing so many of the busy things lately has helped me with.
It kind of reminds me of something Kobe Bryant said over and over again in interviews. He said, yeah, I wanted to be the best, but I wanted to be the best at what I could do. And the way that happened was I just loved the process.
Super important.
I just loved the process. I saw one of the last videos I saw most recently was he shot a direct video for some young kid who was trying out for the basketball team like the next day. He had no idea who this kid was. And he's like, hey man, just, don't worry about what other people are thinking. Go out and do your best. I wish I could give you a magic wand and make it all easy. Well, actually, no, you know what? I don't wish I gave you a magic wand. I'm glad there's no magic wand, because it would take away the joy of being in the process.
Yes.
Because doing the work is fun. And that's what I've learned from him, if anything.
Yes. That's so funny. We've never discussed this, but I had the same learning experience, and that transformed me. That's transformed me in the last few months as I've looked at the work I'm doing, and I'm realizing I've decided to continue or renew my enjoyment of the process. And things that I can't enjoy the process, I'm just not going to do it anymore.
It's fun to build things.
Yes.
On that note, all y'all, we're going to wrap up the conversation here. Thanks for coffee this morning. This is great.
Thank you. I was just thinking this was under the guise of a podcast interview, but it's just been the most enjoyable conversation I've had in a long time.
Imagine podcasts actually just being enjoyable conversations and not always having to be these slicked up thing,
That'll
Especially
never
with
work.
friends. That'll never work. Yeah. All right. Thank you all for joining us.
Hey, it's Mike Kim here. Thanks so much for checking out my YouTube channel, where we talk all about building a personal brand business. That means you as a coach, a speaker, a content creator, how to market your content, how to create great content that people love. Make sure you hit that little notification bell, subscribe to the channel so that you never miss a video. So glad you're here.